later, and I'll see how that goes with the recording. You guys probably know that when we're recording, we have to let you know that we're recording. Um, so if by any chance you do not want me to show in the recording either your face, you can just let me know and we can blur that or erase that. I'm just doing sort of the new social norms that are happening in this new virtual world of education. Okay, so I was saying that I'm welcoming you to the ECON308, the Political Economy of the Environment. And my name is Juan Camilo Cárdenas. You can call me Juan or Juan Camilo. Um, if you say Juan in a crowd of people, let's say from Colombia, you will find so many Juans that that's why we have this second name always used, because you have Juan Camilo, Juan Carlos, Juan Alejandro, Juan Miguel, so many Juans. But you can call me Juan, and that's fine. I'm from Colombia. I am currently in Colombia, in Bogota. Um, and this spring semester, I'm going to offer in this course. And because of the pandemics and because of all kinds of issues, I haven't been able to move to the valley, to Amherst. And the plan is to get there sometime during the spring. We'll see, or the summer. It depends on many things that are happening right now in terms of travel restrictions, visa issues, and the like. But my plan is to join the economics department this year and get there and start as a faculty at UMass. My story with UMass goes way back in 1991, when probably none of you were born yet. I started my master's at UMass at the resource economics department. I moved there with my wife. We both did our master's there. And then we came back to Colombia. I was on a Fulbright scholarship, and part of the plan of the Fulbright scholarship is to go back to Colombia. So I came back here 2 more years, and then we applied for the PhD, and we returned back to Amherst. Amherst is like a second home to me. So we came back there with my wife and one kid, and we started our PhDs again in resource economics in my case, and Hispanic literature for my wife. And we concluded our PhDs there in 1991. Then I moved to Bloomington, Indiana for 1 year. Very different place from the Happy Valley, Indiana, to Massachusetts. And we stayed there for 1 year. I did there my postdoc. And then after that, we moved back to Colombia in 2000. And I have been here in Colombia teaching at a university until now. And as I said, now my plan is to go back to UMass now as a faculty. Very excited to do that. So my return this time is teaching this course, which I am very excited to start teaching with you guys. So for this first week, quickly, I want to get with very little details because I want to get into the experiment that we're going to run today to kick off this idea of discourse. So I already did a bit of introduction of me and a little bit of introduction about the course, because I don't want to give out the punchline yet before we start this experiment. But the idea is to use tools from economics, very simple tools from economics. And I know some of you have already seen some courses, or at least a basic intro course on economics, to use these basic tools in economics to address environmental challenges. But not only with the idea of efficiency, which is like a major keyword for economists and for economics as a discipline, in the sense of how do we create the biggest pie possible with whatever we have. That could be like a summary of the mantra of efficiency in economics, but also other issues of fairness, other issues of sustainability, other issues of equity. And that's why we call this course a political economy of the environment. And that is, economics is much more than just thinking about creating the bigger pie, but it's also about who gets the bigger and the smaller pieces of the pie. Who decides who gets which slices of the pie? Who decides to stop some people from benefiting or for assuming the costs of producing the pie? What happens when the pie is distributed unfairly? And how we deal with that, how we address and analyze that in the general term. And this that I just said with the abstract concept of a pie can mean many things. It means air quality, water quality. It means biodiversity. It means the atmosphere. It means temperatures and climate changes. All those things are related to economics because we're talking about creating the most possible well-being for society with whatever we have at hand, the restrictions we have, and from then on, how to pursue the goals of society, whatever those goals are. And we know that people in general care about many things. They care about that efficiency, they care about fairness, they care about equality, they care about opportunities, they care about merits. So all these things are combining understanding this political economy of the environment. So that's going to be quickly like a general set of open themes or questions we're going to deal in this course. So today we're going to do a first experiment with you guys through a market experience. So think quickly, and I don't know if you have been very much in touch, but probably you have seen in the news and in social media all this mess with Reddit, GameStop, Wall Street. All this has been working through markets. And you will be participating in a market today in a similar way in which you are going to be buying or selling something. I will explain, or I already explained in my announcement in Moodle before. And we'll see how the trading goes in that market. And then we will try to understand a little bit of how markets work and the particular issues of supply and demand that you probably are briefly familiar with, and how those are important to the bigger questions of this course. So we're going to be dealing with that. And then on Thursday, we're going to go back to the data that we produced today. And with those data and the reflections that we can get out of the experiment today, we are going to start discussing what is it about the environment and what is it about the economy that we can do together in this course. And for that purpose, I am also going to be taking on some issues that Ken Boulding on this 1966 piece, which I like a lot, can refer to what happened today. So we'll see how that goes. So with that, I'm going to be using also some of the Zoom polls. I'm going to do quickly one of those right now regarding these readings, just to make sure that this is working with you guys. So you should be able to see now the poll. If you're not seeing the poll, probably you have to close and open up again your window, but I just want to be sure that you are able to see the polls in front of you. So I'm assuming that you all have, and if you don't, let me know, or use the button for raising your hand, or just speak out. But so far I see that there are people here that are being able to answer the questions. So if we are, let's see, it seems to be working now. So 19 of the 22 registered, 20 have already answered. So we might be just missing one more person. And yeah, it's perfect. So I see here, I'm going to share the results with you. Some of you, actually 2/3 of you, haven't found or registered with the textbook that we're going to be using, Core the Economy. And regarding the Boulding reading, I see that 2 of you already found it and the others haven't, and I will be trying to deal with that soon. Here's the thing, I have the PDF, but I need to make sure with the UMass library system that I am authorized to upload the reading to the Moodle. And that's why I haven't uploaded it yet, because I understand there's some kind of legal issues that I need to comply with. So I'm trying to figure that out. Otherwise, we'll find a way to get the PDF reading for you in a way. So, okay, good. So next, let's start to get to the point. And here's the idea. You probably all are familiar with the cars market. You probably have been a participant in a car market. Maybe you have sold a car, maybe you have bought a car, maybe a used one, maybe a new one. But this is something that most people around the world have been dealing with in terms of buying and selling cars. And not only that, but as you can see in these images, this is a huge market. The image in the bottom right, it's typical of what you would see in a major port where cars are loaded in these huge cargo ships and taken around the world, right? So we have all kinds of brands all over the world. And this is something that should be common in most places around the world today. Most small to large cities around the world today, and even most of the rural areas in the world today see automobiles circulating, right? And to get a little bit of the dimensions of this, I'm going to give you a quick quiz or trivia quiz of what do you think is the size of this market, right? So I'm going to send this poll quickly on how many cars do you think are produced worldwide every year, let's say for 2019, which is the data that I have, and how many countries do you think produce cars? And it's not that you go and look it up in Wikipedia or Google, just make a guess, a wild guess from your head. What do you think it is the size of this market? So I see that 16 of you already answered. 19, so we're almost getting there. So I'm going to close this in 10 seconds. Just a wild guess. Interesting. Okay, so let me share the results with you. And this is what you say. This is interesting. I think you're better predictors than my Colombian students, at least for the first question. And you will see the data in a second. But it would feel like somewhere between 60 and 100 million units are produced every year, you think. And that's pretty much on target. And regarding how many countries is quite distributed, look at that in the question too. From people who think that there's only 10 countries all the way to people that more than 80 countries. So I'm going to show you those data quickly in a second here in the screen. And this is the production of cars in this century, in the 21st century. So we were talking about 60 million cars by 2000, and this has been growing steadily all the way to almost 95, 96 million cars a year in 2018, and there's a small decline there from 18 to 19. I don't know the reasons. I'm not an expert in the auto industry, but this can give you an idea of that. And if we look at how many countries produce cars, this is a very interesting graph, because this is also from 2000 to 2010 I found data available on the production of cars and which countries are producing more cars. And you see there, for example, in the bottom, the USA, traditional car manufacturer, the three big companies that you are familiar with, steady over time, but then big new players like Japan from the 60s, and you know that, and today Toyota, Mazda are major well-known brands. But you see others, and China definitely becoming a big player since the 90s, and today being one of the big producers. And in fact, if I show you this page, I'm going to change here the screen so that you can see here this list in Wikipedia. You can see here that the first largest producer of cars right now is China, then the US, then Japan, Germany. These are traditional names. India is becoming a big player too. Tata, for example, is a major company in terms of production of cars. And from then on, but you can see that the list is quite long. So if we talk about 2019 here, that the data there is compiled, we're talking about 48 countries producing cars, right? Okay, so that said, I am going to with this in mind, I'm going to make the create the environment to what we want to do in this experiment. Here, each of you are going to represent a country, right? So if we have 22 people, it's going to be half of you roughly countries that are going to be net sellers or net exporters of cars, and the other half of you are going to be net importers of cars, buyers, right? And notice this doesn't have to do with the wealth of the country or the level of industrialization of the country, right? You just saw the figures. You might see rich countries in Europe that are net importers, maybe Luxembourg, Switzerland are net importers of cars. And these are highly rich, wealthy countries. And you can see also countries of middle income, maybe India or Mexico, that could be net exporters of cars. They're just because big manufacturers of cars are located there, right? So with that in mind, you're going to be assigned randomly one of these two roles as buyers or sellers of cars. And you're going to do this in a platform that I'm going to put in the chat, the link in a second for you to log in. But I want to give some instructions first before you log in so that we make sure that we are all in the same page. Okay. And those instructions have to do with the following. So when you enter into this web page, and the email that I sent with the instructions for you was a preamble so that you knew what the rules of the games were, more and less of what you're going to do in a second. Once you log into that link that I'm going to put in the chat, you are going to type a session name that I'm going to give you in a second. Once you enter that session name, you will be asked to give us your first name and last name and a password. Please do not use your ATM password or anything sensitive. Just type anything you want, but something that you remember. Because if you log out for whatever reason or your connection fails or something, you need to remember that password that you put here, those 4 letters or numbers that you have there, so that you can re-enter to the experiment in a second. And that's my second warning here. If for whatever reason, when we get into the platform, you log out because your connection failed, you close the website or whatever, and you need to re-enter, please re-enter through this second button of emergency restart. Don't start again with login. Once you have created your ID with your login, you are a player. And if you re-enter through that, your older player is going to block and interrupt the whole experiment, and then we are all going to fail. So if for whatever reason you were able to enter to the experiment and register with your first name and last name and with your password that you entered, if you need to re-log in, do it through this button, emergency restart. Okay, so please remember that, because otherwise we will be screw up with the experiment, and we will have to stop it. So with the rules of the games, I'm going to explain quickly what is it that you're going to do. And for that, let me stop sharing here and open my instructions here. And so give me a second. And I am going to explain this through this other file here. And we are going to be here now playing with the world market for cars, okay? And in this experiment, as I said, you are going to be at a market, and each of you is going to have a role as a buyer or a seller. You will know this once you enter and you log in. And here's some key messages. One, if you're going to be a seller, right? If you're going to be a seller, you're going to make a profit by accepting prices that are above your production cost. And you will know the production cost of your car that you are selling in that route. If you are buyers, you will make a profit by paying prices below the intrinsic value of the car that you're going to try to buy. And you will know this value. In other words, once you enter into the website and you are assigned a role, If you're a seller, a producer of cars, you will know the production cost of each of the units that you are going to sell. So you want to sell those cars at a price that is above that production cost. And you're going to be competing with others here in this market. If you're assigned as a buyer, you will see the intrinsic value of that car or those units of cars that you want to buy. And therefore you want to pay below that so that you make a profit on buying those cars in this world market for cars. Okay? That's key to understand the incentives. Each of you in each round is going to be able to trade up to 3 units. And it's important that I highlight up to. What that means is you don't have to sell all your 3 cars if you don't want to, if the price is not good enough for you. You don't have to buy all the 3 units that you're capable of buying if you don't want to. So it depends on how the market goes, and you will see if you buy or if you sell, okay? Important, all the units that you didn't buy or you didn't sell are not going to cause you any harm. It's just that you keep them at 0 cost, right? Just to make simple the experiment the way we want to work it out. So don't worry if you could sell only 2 of the 3 units or 1 of the 3 units, but don't sell at a loss. And in the same manner, don't buy at a loss. If the prices are not right for you, don't buy or sell at a negative profit because it's going to harm your earnings throughout the experiment, okay? Also important that you make sure that you see in the screen what is happening with the rest of the market, because you're going to see in the market at what prices are the buyers bidding and the sellers are asking. There's a typo there, a double L there. So sellers are going to be sending asks for what they want to sell their cars, and buyers are going to be sending or submitting bids of what they're willing to pay for a car. And you will see those in the screen. I'm going to show you in a second. So you will be watching all the time the standing bids and asks, and you are going to be playing with those numbers and making your own bids or asks, depending on whether you're a buying or a seller. And whenever a match happens between a bid and an ask, that means a buyer, a seller, agree on a price, then there's the match, there's this transaction, and you will see in the screen that you made a profit and you can move to the next unit of cars that you have if you haven't traded all your 3 units, okay? So the way your screen is going to work is more or less the following. This is for the sellers. If you are a seller, you will see this screen here, right? And you will see in this part of the screen here in the left, the bids of people who are willing to buy cars. So it looks like somebody is willing to buy a car at 550. And there are 2 sellers who are asking for 610 and 620. So with those data, there's no chances for a match yet, because this guy is offering too little and these guys are asking too high. But in the meantime, your own transactions say that you had your first unit cost at $1 and somebody was willing to pay $3. There was a trade and you made a profit of 2 as net earnings, okay? In your next unit in that same round, the next unit for you, the cost was $2. And again, somebody was willing to pay 3, you traded that and you made a profit of 1. But then the third unit for this guy was $6 the cost. That's too costly. And never was that person willing to, or finding someone who was willing to buy that car at a price be above that. And notice this seller is typing there 6.1, saying, okay, I'm trying to make a profit here of 0.1. Let's see if it happens. But it hasn't happened yet. The round ended, and then the person ended up making $3 of profit. 2 from the first unit, 1 from the next unit. Okay? So is this clear for now? For the sellers? Okay, good. I'm seeing your faces here, so that helps me a lot. Now buyers, same thing. Buyers are seeing here bids and asks, okay? This particular buyer has an intrinsic value of $9 for the first unit. It means if this guy buys a car, that first car is worth $9 for him, for that buyer. And that person was able to trade, to buy a car and paid $3, and therefore he made a profit of 6. Notice, this person was bidding 4, but somebody was competing with this person, and at the end, this buyer bought this car that was worth $9, bought it for 3. That person made a profit of 6. But then the next unit was worth 8, and it was this person was bidding 3 to buy at 3, didn't get anyone, then no profit. Next unit, no profit. At the end, all $6 was the profit of this buyer. Okay, so that's it. So once you get into the website that I'm going to give you the session name, you will be assigned as a buyer or a seller, and you will start trading. And I'm going to close the market at 2 minutes and see how many trades were made. Then we make another round and another round, and we will play a few rounds until we complete the experiment. Okay? Before I continue giving you the experimental side, I want to make sure that these simple rules are clear. So I'm going to share a poll here with you and see if the rules and the incentives were clear for you. And if not, I want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So these are 4 quick questions of what you understood from what I explained and what you read from Moodle. So I see that you're now completing the quiz. Good. I think we're getting there. So I'm going to close this poll now. And let me show you the results. And because I see that there might be some doubts here, I'm going to make sure that we are all in the same page. Question 1. If you don't sell or buy a unit, you don't lose any money. Okay? So the correct answer is false. You don't lose any money. So if you thought you were losing money, no, you're not losing money. So any unit not traded doesn't cause any loss to you or cost. You just keep that unit to yourself, right? So that's first point. Second point, if you buy a unit for a price that is above your value cost, your earnings will be negative. Yes, that's true. In the same way that if you sell a unit for a price that is below your production cost, your earnings are negative. So that's true, okay? So the correct answer for question 2 is true. Third question, here I see a little bit more confusion. Units not traded out of your maximum 3 units are passed on to the next round? No. If you didn't trade your 3 units, in the next round, you start with 3 fresh new units. So units not traded in a round are kept to yourself. Let's say for self-consumption, to put it in a simple way. And finally, buyers will submit bids and sellers will submit asks. This is important for the screen that you're saying, because these are the screens that you're going to be watching, okay? So to move on with that, let me now stop here sharing, and no, here. And so this is the session name that you're going to be used, JCC4, or all in lower caps, okay? JCC4. And let me send here through the chat, Beacon Lab. You are going to log in as participants in this link here. There it is. And the session name is going to be JCC4, okay? that session is now open and I am able here to see how many of you have registered. So let me close here a few of these windows. And I see here that now 7 of you are already logged in. So here's the thing. There's going to be 9 screens of instructions. Those are the instructions that I just summarized for you. So I suggest you just skip those screens, just keep going forward until the last one. There's even a quiz there that you, if you want to try to give it a try to answer. But I want to get to the point where we can start doing this. So let's see, for now I see 18 people already logged in. $20 people, so we're almost there. Right now I'm seeing that there are 22 of you, 23. So let's see how that goes. We are almost getting there. Let's see. For some reason, let's see. 21. So there should be 1 or 2 more people still getting there. So in a second, I'm going to start round 1 of the game. And you will see for this particular round, your 3 units and the valuation of your 3 units. If you're a seller, you will see the production costs of each of your units. And if you're a buyer, you will see the valuation, the values, the intrinsic values of your 3 units. And you're going to start trading. Okay? So I think I'm going to start round 1 and see how that goes. Is anyone having trouble with getting through? Or I'm assuming everybody's now.
I'm having a little trouble.
Okay, Jackson, and you don't know yet if you're a buyer or a seller?
No, I'm continuing. I just got on. I was having trouble getting on.
Okay, so so in the chat we have the website and the session name JCC4.
Mm-hmm.
So is it opening now, the window, the website, is it opening for you?
Yep, I just got on.
Okay.
And now I'm here.
Yeah, now it shows here that you're here. Okay, so I think we're all set there. And again, and this goes for Jackson, who is the last one to have been able to come in. Just skip those 9 pages of instructions because you know how the trading goes, okay? And I'm going to start now round 1. And it should be open for you. So the trading floor is now open. So let me see if you're now being able to submit bids or asks. Are you now in there? Let's see. Yeah, it looks like. Let's see. Yep, I'm seeing here now numbers, and there's already transactions. So there have been already a couple units being traded. 3. So it looks like you're in. Okay, so it looks like there's trading happening. And for the sake of time, I'm going to time 30 more seconds. And with that ends, I'm going to stop round 1 and move on to round 2. Okay, so I see here that you have traded 8 cars already. 10 cars now, and you have 10 more seconds to go. So when ring, when this rings, I'm going to stop round 1 and move to round 2. Okay, so that's it. So I'm going to hit start round 2 now. So now you should move to round 2. Okay? So you have 3 new units. And I'm going to give you just 1 minute, 1.5 minutes for this one. Trading is happening. Right now, I see already 5 transactions. I can see 6 cars already traded. The average price for your transactions is $5.26. That's the average. But I see cars being bought and sold at different prices, but circulating around that. You have 40 more seconds. 13 cars. And the price, the average price is $5.23 at this point, the average. 30 more seconds. 15 units. 15 units already traded. 16. Okay, 20 more seconds. So 5 more seconds. And we're stopping this round 2. Okay. I'm going to move to round 3 quickly. 1 more minute. And I forgot to say something that is important. I am going to promise this and I will have to figure it out somehow, but I'm going to accumulate your earnings throughout the course in different experiments that we do. And at the end of the semester, I'm going to pick randomly a couple of you, and I'm going to make sure that you get something as a present proportional to your earnings. I don't know what yet. I am trying to figure out if I can transfer money to your U card or if I can transfer money through PayPal or something, but I'm going to make sure that at the end of the semester, I choose randomly 2 of you and pay you somehow proportional to your earnings in these experiments. But I promise I will figure this out. Okay, we're going to go to round 3. So now we're starting round 3. Okay, I'm going to give you 1 minute for that because now you're experts on this market of cars. 1 minute. Okay, I see trading happening now. $25 minutes. Seconds, I'm sorry. 15 seconds. There are already 12 cars being traded. Thirteen cars. We have 5 more seconds to go.
I can't bid on mine for some reason.
If are you refreshing the page? If you refresh the page, should be okay. And if you log out, remember to log in through the emergency start.
No, it still won't let me bid. Last round I didn't get to bid. It just the only option I have is submit and update.
Yeah, and it didn't do more. There's in some of you, sometimes it shows a button up there that says enable or disable auto refresh. Try playing with that one next time because sometimes that sort of blocks people's possibility to go further. Okay, so we're going to move to round 5. We have only 5 more minutes, but we have a problem. Or as they say in the movies, Houston, we have a problem. Okay? And here's the problem, or you can imagine what the problem is. Okay? Well, the auto industry creates externalities. You probably have heard of the word externalities, and we're going to be seeing this in a second. So basically, you can imagine that the auto industry requires raw materials and lots of energy that comes from fossil fuels to be able to produce cars. People who buy cars and use cars burn fossil fuels too: diesel, gas, natural gas. These are all inputs for the production of cars and the consumption of cars. And all these emissions that are coming from the production and consumption of cars are accumulating in the atmosphere. And this is creating global warming gases accumulation in the atmosphere, and the temperatures are increasing throughout the world. And remember, your countries spread all over the world, okay? And this is increasing the surface temperatures in land, water bodies, oceans, lakes, and the like. Those climate changes are increasing the expenditures of countries. So countries now are spending more money in terms of mitigation and adaptation to these problems created by climate change. So countries are needing to spend money, and this money is spent to attend different things: health issues, disasters, infrastructure destruction, displacement of people, etc., etc., etc. So what this is going to cause in our next round or 3 rounds of the game, and then we will be done, is the following. You are going to pay out of your earnings the costs that your own country is having to pay to adapt and mitigate to climate change. In other words, if you make some earnings out of the market the same way that you have been making some earnings in the market, out of those earnings, we are going to subtract an amount of money that is needed in your country to pay for these expenditures, to attend people displaced, to repair infrastructure, to repair housing, to move villages away from the coastal zones to the inland, and so forth. You will not see this in the accounting in the website, but we know this is happening because experts have estimated this. And to make it simple, here what it is. For every car that is traded in the market in the next rounds, for every car, your country is going to need to cover the equivalent of 10 cents for covering these costs within your country. So in other words, if 5 cars are traded in the market at the end of the round, we are going to subtract, I'm sorry, 15 cars are traded in the market. For each country, we're going to subtract $1.50 out of your earnings during that round. Okay? And notice, every country has to pay for this. It doesn't matter if you're a producer or a buyer of cars. It doesn't matter even if you don't buy or sell cars, because your country is suffering the consequences of climate change. And in your country, you have to attend the costs of mitigation and adaptation to climate change, because your country has people displaced, infrastructure destroyed, health issues, and you have to pay for those out of your earnings. Okay? So if there are no other questions in the 2 minutes that we have left, we're going to run 3 more rounds of the same experiment, same thing. And remember, you will not see these costs in your screen, but you know that when we finish the round, we will see how many cars were traded, and we will subtract 10 cents per car traded out of your earnings in that round. Okay? Is that clear? So let's start round 4 under those conditions. So here we are with round 4. I'm going to give you only 1 minute. So I see here that you guys have already traded 5 cars. That means that up to now, actually, sorry, 8 cars. It means that everybody here, everybody will have to cover 80 cents of your earnings to pay for the costs within your country. Actually, it was not 8, it's 12 now. You have 10 more seconds for trading. 5 more seconds. 3, 2, 1. And we have finished round 4. So for you to keep in your mind, there were 17 cars traded in this round. That means that the environmental costs out of your pocket for your country alone, you will have to subtract $1.70 out of your earnings in this round. Okay? Now let's go to round 5. 1 more minute. It starts now. So you have 30 more seconds, and we have already 13 cars being traded, 16 cars, 20 more seconds. Five more seconds. And we're done. And the last round, round 6, and when we're done, starts now. There were 19 units traded in the last round, except for maybe one last minute transaction. Last round, 1 minute. And then we will be done. I can see in your faces that you're more into this than the GameStop Reddit traders. 20 more seconds. Five seconds. And we're done. Okay, that's it. Guys, we're done for today. On Thursday, I'm going to send you in advance the results of this. And I want you to think, what would you do in this economy? Thinking what just happened and thinking about the gains and losses from that. Alvin is asking, can we have a class leaderboard? I don't know exactly what you mean, but if you stick around, you can explain to me what that means, because I don't know. But if you guys need to leave now, I am fine in letting you go, because the class was up until 3:20. So on Thursday, I will be sending you another Zoom link, and we will be discussing this and starting the course in more detail. But if you can explain to me what the leaderboard is.
Yeah, so a leaderboard would be if all of our results are like posted somewhere, and then all of us can see who's leading in terms of who made the most in every
this particular experiment.
For this
That
one,
would hurt my
everyone in the
feelings.
future adding on to it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean the platform. No, wait, it says pretty sure class goes until 3:45. Is that true?
Yeah,
50 minutes, I thought.
3:45, I think.
That would be awesome. Okay.
Pretty sure we go.
I know, I thought it was 3:20. I thought it was a 50 minutes class. I don't know, I was seeing that incorrectly. No, that's great. Okay, so good.
Oh my.
So that gives me time okay, so regarding Alvin's question, the platform doesn't let me show that. like a ranking of with names and the earnings. Probably I can dig that out of the data, but I will have to think about it. So great, because then I can do the following. So here it is. And this is what I was thinking of starting on Thursday, but that's great. So if it is 45, then great, because I'm always needing more time than I really do. So, okay, so let me show you the following. Here it is, the actual conditions of the market that you were in, okay? So you probably by now are familiar with the idea of a supply curve and a demand curve. And that's exactly what we have here. So this curve here, the supply curve, it's made out of the costs that each of you had for your units. What that means is, for example, here, if you can see my cursor, right here says that there were at some point 1 or 2 units in the seller side whose cost was 0. So anything they got out of a car, they made it a profit. There were a few more units who had production costs of $1, these more units of $2, these more units of $3, and so on. But of course, there were people with production costs of 6. On the other hand, in the demand side, here's the demand curve. And notice there were people who were willing to pay $10 for a car. And that may have happened to some of you. And there were a few more units with 9. And there were all these units with 8 and 7 and 6 and 5. And also 4 and even 3. So with that in mind, let's see what happened during the experiment. So I'm going to show you the next. These are the 2 first trades. And they were somewhere between $4 and $5. And this was the next trade. And then the next trade. And the next trade. And this is what happened all throughout round 1. So these were the transactions in round 1. Then let's see what happens in round 2. And here it is for round 2. And let's see what happens in round 3. And you can see how the market itself, through this idea of the so-called invisible hand, is driving the market towards the equilibrium price of somewhere around $5. And everybody is sort of converging towards that. And this is that particular story that you guys learn in introductory micro or macro, that if the markets are competitive and the right conditions are met, the invisible hand of the self-interest is going to guide humans and the economy towards a place where everybody gains and the whole society gains. And that's the story in those 3 rounds. And I just replicated that. You can see that, right? All of you guys in the first 3 rounds were making money. That's what we call consumer surplus for the buyers and producer surplus for the sellers. And the sum of the surpluses, the consumer surplus and the producer surplus, the sum of those is a measure of well-being created, the added value of the market to the well-being of society. And if you look at the numbers, you will see that in those first 3 rounds, you were making money out of being part of this competitive market. You were competing with other people. And because of that competition and that invisible hand, you converge towards this price. And you have learned in introductory courses in economics that this is good because at that price, we produce the maximum surplus possible for society. That's the idea that I was making in the introduction about the general well-being, the size of the pie. If in a competitive market, buyers and sellers end up trading at the equilibrium price where the curves of supply and demand cross, we maximize the surplus of our society. And that's the efficiency idea. And so far, so good. But then we had rounds 4, 5, and 6, in which I told you that we had a problem because the production on cars and the consumption of cars were creating emissions of global warming gases, CO2, NO2, and CO and other gases that are accumulating in the atmosphere, and that is increasing the temperatures in the surface of the earth, and that is creating extra costs for society. And each of you privately had to take out of your earnings, from this trading, this market, to cover those costs, because it was your own country and you have to cover the losses. Somehow you had to attend the victims of this problem. And in some cases, you were not even part of the problem, or where you were contributing marginally to that problem by trading that extra car. And yet, the other number of cars being traded helped increase the total amount of emissions at the planet level, and all those aggregate emissions at the planet level were creating problems for you in particular, for you as a player in your country. So let's see what happened in the market when you knew this. You knew that out of your earnings, you needed to pay for this, and that the accumulation of the trades, the accumulation of the number of cars being traded, created more costs to you. And this is what happened in round 4. Do you see a major difference, at least in the prices? Or in the number of transactions? Look at the number of dots. Remember, each dot is a car. Let's go to round 5. And let's go to round 6. Interesting how from round 5, everybody was converging around $6, or many people. And then in round 6, again, we have some variation. But notice how most of the prices are between 6 and 5 and 6. But here's the thing. In those rounds in red, you guys were losing money by being part of this economy that continued to function. Right? So if we were trading somewhere between 15, 16, 17 cars, that meant that each of you, after your profits, you had to subtract, and I am going to subtract from the accounting that I have from your decisions, you had to subtract $1.5, 1.6, 1.7, $1.8 out of those profits. And sometimes not even your transactions could cover those costs. And if I add that up, if I add for all the 22 countries here present, the losses, imagine 22 countries, each of the countries losing because of the mitigation and adaptation costs to attend the problems of climate change. We are talking a lot of wealth now being lost, a lot of revenues at the society level being lost. And then the question is, what do we do next? How do we deal with this? And in particular, because of the following question. Being part of the market economy creates well-being. And we proved that in the first 3 rounds. And that's exactly how the market economy works. People invent things, they create firms, they create enterprises, they go to markets, they sell them, and they make a profit. And in the other side, people are interested in these things that are created, that are innovated, and they want to buy them. And depending on the prices they pay, that improves their well-being of life. Because they get satisfaction, they get utility, they satisfy their needs. If they buy a car, they get transportation, and this car might be their main means of transportation, or that car could be the main factor for generating income. If you are an Uber driver and you bought that car, that's your main factor of production as an Uber driver when you bought in the car, and that's the way you make your living. So people are generating well-being out of being part of this market economy. But at the same time, the production and consumption in the market economy creates externalities. These externalities. And these externalities are not abstract or absent, and they begin to hit home more and more. And if not, go ask people in Atlanta and in Georgia in general of what happened from the previous hurricanes. And if not, go ask insurance companies how they are beginning to deal with the real estate property values and insuring properties in Manhattan, New York, that are at greater risks of flooding that have already happened. You probably saw the images of the Louvre, the museum in Paris, flooding. Imagine the cost for insurance companies now as opposed to 20 or 30 years ago, when thinking, am I going to insure these pieces of work of art that are so valuable if they are in basements in the Louvre and the Louvre has more and more chances of being flooded? So this is real, this is happening, and this costs money. And the question is, what do we do with the market economy? And how we deal with that. So throughout the rest of the course, we're going to be trying to understand in more detail that difference between the red dots and the blue dots. Why the market price didn't just move at all. So the price signals don't seem to be good signals that, for example, in this case, climate change is affecting the well-being of people. But you internally knew in every of those rounds that you were losing money. So you're making money in the market, and then you're using your earnings to cover the costs of this that you're being part of. So let me throw at you a couple open questions to provoke some reactions on you, and let's see what you guys think. I'm going to say, let's just prohibit the production and consumption of cars, and then we don't create this problem of climate change. What would you say? Any of you? Anyone? Would you agree with that? If I just say, I'm going
I'd be pretty upset.
Okay, go ahead, Tommy.
I'd be pretty upset if
Why?
I were a buyer or a seller.
Okay.
Either way.
Okay. And I'm going to go to the other extreme. So Tommy wouldn't like that idea. I'm going to the other extreme. I'm going to say, I'm not doing anything. Let the market just work. And you are on your own. What would you say of that? Anyone else?
I would say that it's unfair that people that aren't participating in that market have to deal with things such as like air pollution and stuff like that.
Uh-huh. And with that in mind, Eric, you're thinking, for example, a particular country who decided to stop producing or consuming cars. Let's say a country passes a referendum throughout the population, and this is a small island in the Caribbean, and this small island says, we're going to forbid cars in this island. We're going to move by bicycle and by electric trains.
Mhm.
Would that be unfair with them?
Yeah, it would
Why?
be unfair because they would still like receive the air pollution and other negative externalities that the market is creating.
Exactly. They would still get flooded. They would still get hurricanes. We just had an island here in Colombia in the Caribbean. It's called Providence Island. It was literally wiped out by one of the last hurricanes in this hurricane season. When I say wiped out, is that 99% of the buildings were just erased. If you look at the pictures, Providence Island, Colombia, in Google, you will see the pictures. Just entirely erased the island. And now they're rebuilding the whole island. And it's a few thousand people who are living there. So that's the thing that I'm trying to open up here for you guys to think. And we're going to be putting economic tools to understand these opposite places. because Eric is thinking that this is quite unfair, that even if you don't participate in the market, you're still suffering the consequences of the world market. But Tommy has a point too on the other side saying, but if we stop this, and this is the means of production, this is the way of life of many people, and people have the right to have a job in the auto industry, and people have the right to buy cars if they have the means to buy them and solve their problems. And imagine if you need that for your survival or for your daily life. Why should anyone impose a restriction in something? And this is why I like this example, because in the American culture and the economy of the United States, so much built around certain industries, and being the auto industry such a landmark industry, imagine how would that sound among people. So you have these opposite positions. They are not easy to deal with. And of course, we have challenges from now on that you probably have seen. Of course, Tesla is coming in and saying, hey, I'm going to produce cars that don't emit any gases to the atmosphere. And that's a nice innovation. Yet we have to produce the lithium to produce the batteries, to put those batteries in those Tesla cars. And that creates it's already creating huge mining problems in countries like Congo, which is a major supplier of lithium. You need to produce heat to manufacture those cars. And that heat has to come from electricity. And that electricity or the combustion of fossil fuels has to be replaced at some point. So innovation is going to play a major part. But that doesn't mean that it's going to solve entirely this problem that you're seeing in the screen. So when I put together the numbers in your earnings during the blue dots and your earnings during the red dots, you're going to be seeing the contrast of before and after, or without and with accounting for the costs from climate change at the planetary level. And we're going to be dealing with that. And as Eric was saying, he didn't even see it as a problem of efficiency. Eric was concerned as a problem of fairness. Fairness in terms of who gains from the functioning of the economy, and fairness in terms of who bears the costs of the consequences of the economy. And that's going to be a major issue in this class. So we're going to be reading about this. We're going to be discussing and using basic economic tools about this. We're going to be using a little bit of game theory, very simple game theory, to do this. And we're going to be doing that through the different tools that we have. So now, and I am glad that I was able to do this, because I was waiting for Thursday for this. With that as a motivation, on Thursday, you guys will have read this short essay by Ken Boulding about the spaceship Earth, that I want you to read it, because it's a beautiful piece about what we're seeing today at the planetary level. And he is one major figure in the environmental and ecological economics movement, one of the patriarchs of the birth of these ideas. And you will see a little bit of physics, a little bit of sociology, a little bit of politics, and a lot of economics into this problem that we live today in this experiment. Okay? And that reading is key. Again, I'm going to figure out how to upload the PDF to the website. And if I am not going to be able to do that, eventually I will send it by email to you guys through my personal email. I'll figure something out. But if you Google it, you should be able to find a PDF of that reading, because it's a classic. You just put Building Spaceship Earth and you will find the coming of the spaceship Earth, and you will find it very easily. So you will have read that for Thursday. And with that, we're going to kick off this first week of discussion of what is happening in terms of efficiency, fairness, the political economy of the environment as an introduction. And then we will start working with Core, the Economy, the textbook that you don't have to buy if you don't want to. If you want to have a paper copy, you can get the paper copy in Amazon or whatever, but it's free online in the website that I send through Moodle. So you can register there as a student, and you can access everything online for free with this textbook that it's a way of saving you guys some bucks in textbooks that we know are really expensive. Okay, so that's it. I don't know if you guys have any question, any logistic question, administrative, but I hope I motivated you to see what's ahead in this course, and I'll see you guys on Thursday. Okay?
Awesome.
And in
Sounds good. Thank you.
say that again.
Said thank you.
Oh, sure. Okay. So good to see you all. And I hope to see more faces on Thursday. I got to
Thank
see
you.
faces today, and that's good. Okay. See you guys on Thursday. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Professor.
Sure.
Professor, I just have a quick question.